Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
Dickinson, Angie, identified the 5 men she detested the most: impolite celebrities. The majority of Angie Angeline Brown Dickinson was born on the 30th of September 1931 in Colm, North Dakota. The second of 4 daughters, Leo Henry Brown, was born in a tiny community. Editor and publisher of newspapers, as well as his Angie wife Frederica, was raised in Agaman American family that placed a high importance on education, self-control, and diligence. Her family relocated when she was 10 years old to California's Burbank, an essential move that would unintentionally put Angie would get closer to the future, ultimately assert in the entertainment. Even if she didn't at first decided to pursue a career in acting, her closeness to Hollywood and the natural screen presence would soon alter through her life. Angie was present Glendale College, after which they transferred to Los Angeles Immaculate Heart College Angeles, where she made a degree, hoping to pursue a career in writing or professional in administration. She was employed as a secretarial assistant, including time spent at prior to her Lockheed Air Terminal. Gorgeous appearance and intriguing demeanor caused her to take part in a local beauty pageant, taking second place in the 1953 preliminary round for Miss America competition turned out to be a game-changer. That publicity provided access to television and modeling, opening the route for auditions for acting roles. She moved swiftly, attracted the interest of Hollywood scouts, and by the middle of the 1950s, her performance was starting to take shape. Her movie 1954 saw her make her debut, but it was her role in the 1959 Western Rio Bravo, directed by Howard Hawks, that was her breakthrough. Accompanying screen titans John Wayne, Ricky Nelson, and Dean Martin, Angie performed the seductive yet powerful role Feathers, receiving recognition for her performance that blended style, sensuality, as well as humor. This position demonstrated her adaptability and demonstrated that she could compete with Hollywood's most notable male celebrities. The success of the movie not just threw her into the mainstream, but it also strengthened her portrayal as a powerful woman who could convey both grit and glitz. In the 1960s, Dickinson's movie career took off. She starred in diverse genres such as thrillers, romantic comedies, and criminal dramas. Her roles in movies such as Ocean's 111,960, featuring the Killers and the Rat Pack, 1964, in opposition to Lee Marvin, showed her capacity to depict intricate, frequent ladies with complex moral ambiguities, and she also created unforgettably parodic in motion pictures like Point Blank 1967, as well as Big Bad Mama 1974, displaying audacity in choosing roles that challenged limits and disregarded stereotypes. Never be satisfied with just being gorgeous. Dickinson required the character's faces tower multifaceted, powerful, susceptible, alluring, and in 1974, she assumed what would turn out to be the most defining position in her career. Sergeant Anderson, Suzanne Pepper, in the innovative television shows Officer. As a pioneering female lead in a television, Dickinson broke down barriers with her police drama. For female media professionals, the program, which ran from 1974 and 1978, was not just a business success as well as a cultural landmark, clearing the path for the future series with strong female leads. Angie's representation of a capable and unafraid undercover police officer connected with audiences of both sexes, showed the Golden Globe for Best Actress and several drama shows nominations. For Emmys for the part, Angie Dickinson was given a policewoman's well-known, solidifying her position in history of television. Dickinson and Angie kept up their behavior long into the 1990s and the early 2000s. She assumed more responsible duties that demonstrated her developing artistic abilities, appearing in well-regarded films like in 1980 Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill, a tense and contentious movie that garnered her praise from critics, and the TV Hollywood Wives, a 1985 film. Additionally, she starred in Big Bad Love on HBO in 2001 that made an appearance in Ocean's 11 2001, a referentietto her first movie starring the Rat Pack. Her years of experience in the field, together with given her readiness to innovate, has gained her respect from several fan generations, and a serious poker player. While over the summer of 2004, she took part in the second season of Celebrity on Bravo Showdown in poker. Following her announcement, Monica anchor Dave Foley remarked, "Occasionally when we use the term celebrity, we truly mean." Dickinson also had an appearance in Elvis's comedy Has Left the Building. Portraying the mother of a former mechanic and the persona of Kim Basinger's in 1999. Dickinson was ranked number 42 by Playboy on the ranking of the 100 most attractive celebrities of the century. TV Guide's 2002 ranking on a list of the 50. She is ranked third. The sexiest TV personalities ever behind George Clooney and Diana Rigg, voted for first place. Dickinson in 2009 appeared in a drama on the Hallmark Channel and Mending Fences. Laura Costas. Her final acting credit is this one. Thus far, Angie Dickinson's private affairs was almost as exciting and fascinating as her on career in acting. Her initial marriage to Gene Dickinson, who was a collegiate football player who subbed to the elect. The pair exchanged vows in 1952, when Angie was still at Thewan. Her career first started. and Jean Way establishing his career, their union, but in brief. But it was a significant chapter early in her adult life. In spite of their 1956 split, the union was not formally disbanded until 1960. Remarkably, even with the divorce, Angie decided to retain the last name Dickinson, who would go on to become famous as she became well known in Hollywood, her choice. To keep the name implies a personal and professional level of devotion to the persona she had created under that name when she was married. In addition to Jean, Angie met renowned economist John Kenneth Galbraith and Catherine Hispaus Siegelbreath. This bond would grow into an academically stimulating partnership. Angie frequently went to the Galbraith and even went with him on official trips during John Galbraith served as the United States ambassador to President John F. Kennedy's India. Her encounters and exchanges during these trips, the couple was comprehensively detailed in Galbraith's Reflections, A Life, and the Journal of the Ambassador in the Present Era. These accounts offer a unique perspective on Angie Dickinson's section to international issues and culture, demonstrating a side of herself that went well beyond her work in movies as well as television. In 1965, Angie stepped into her future self, most well-known and long-lasting union toe, a well-known lyricist and composer Carrick Burt, a prominent character in American culture, Bacharach music, renowned for classic tunes such as Love Is What the World Needs Right Now, and Shared Raindrops Continue to Fall on My Head. Meet Angie, a stunning but intense electric connection. The pair stayed together for 16 years, but there were difficulties with unity. In their last years together, they went through a time of separation wherein they both investigated conflicts with other individuals, illustrating the changing dynamics of their collaboration. July 12, 1966, their only child was born to Angie and Burt, Leah, Nikki, their daughter, together Bacharach, whom they lovingly referred to as Nikki. Early in life, Nikki was characterized by major obstacles. Identified she needed particular attention because she had autism. And care all of her life. Angie had always been a fierce individual, private individual, developed into a loyal and mother, spending a significant amount of her time to make sure Nikki was okay. As hard as they tried, Nikki battled mental health problems for many years. In a terrible development, she took her own life on January 4, 2007. 40 years old, her passing was a catastrophic injury to her parents, Angie in particular, who had been steadfast in her devotion and encouragement for her daughter. Even Burt Bacharach himself would let her discuss the excruciating pain and the challenge of parenting a child with such difficult requirements, recognizing that Nikki's hardships have a long-lasting effect, impacted both of their lives. Bacharach died 2023, bringing the book to extraordinary existence that had been so near tangled with Dickinson's through their years spent together. After the conclusion of Angie's union with Bacharach, Dickinson kept up a vibrant social life and kept investigating romance partnerships, but she never married. She was in the 1980s in a love relationship with the singer Anne Vera, a songwriter best known for At This Moment, his heartfelt hit. Their relationship demonstrated Angie's persistent attraction to artistic and creative people. She even appeared in the Vera singles music video, I Can Look After Me, demonstrating her ongoing relationship with the entertainment industry outside of the performing arts. Dickinson's personal life in the 1990s attracted public notice once more, when she started dating a legendary Larry King as an interviewer and broadcaster. They were together for a number of years and was distinguished by reciprocal adoration and respect. King is renowned for his lengthy discussion program and his aptitude to establish a connection with a variety of visitors. Discord, a deep woman in Angie, poise and intelligence. However, when the romance finally ended, it highlighted Angie Dickinson's lasting attractiveness and her capacity to relate to important people in a variety of disciplines. A legend in the film industry, Angie Dickinson was breathtaking beauty, an on-screen appearance charm enthralled audiences for decades. Never one to be afraid, stating the truth. Having a profession that began with the heyday of Hollywood's influence on contemporary television. Dickinson's time, she experienced a number of interactions, both positive and negative, with other power actors, producers, and directors. Even though she was well known for her, Dickinson's expertise and charisma were additionally, she was a woman who demanded respect and had little tolerance for haughtiness, rudeness, or snobbery. Above their ears, she was open and honest in interviews. Private discussions regarding a few well-known men in the field that she had discovered to be incredibly impolite or contemptuous. These weren't insignificant irritations. These men, as stated by, made a significant impact as some of the worst people she's ever encountered came across. Frank Sinatra is the first. A complex friendship cooled down. Frank Sinatra and Angie Dickinson maintained a well-known friendship. Andy Van made romantic overtures. The partnership wasn't always easy. Sailing. Despite her admiration for his skill, charm, Dickinson frequently alluded that Sinatra was capable of becoming incredibly harsh and irritable in private. Cher remembered times when he lost his temper, unexpectedly, and he would snap verbally to people in his vicinity, such as Dickinson, a graceful woman, discovered such conduct is unacceptable. She claimed to have once stated that Sinatra's vanished more quickly than a desert, particularly when he felt crossed, miraged, or intimidated. The regard she formerly received for him started to deteriorate as she observed how he handled those who were incapable of anything for him. Even so, they maintained a complex friendship. The animosity, his caustic remarks, stayed in her memories for many years. Second, the legendary John Wayne, who was contemptuous. John and Angie Dickinson costed Wayne in the 1959 Rio Bravo film a part that made her a household name. However, although the on-screen chemistry is remembered by fans, between Dickinson and the Duke, behind it was a different story in those scenes. According to Dickinson, Wayne was incredibly condescending. However, he never publicly disparaged her. She sensed his affection toward her was rooted in condescension. Despite this, he did not treat her as an equal. Her skill and professionalism. She uncertained that Wayne spoke to me as though he wasn't an actress. She was a schoolgirl. His still stature and antiquated vistas. Dickinson's views on women were in odds with gaining self-reliance as a female celebrity. Although she valued Rio Bravo's actions in order to further her career, she quit that movie with a feeling of letdown in Wayne's actions toward her. Rating in private, he was one of her most impolite co-stars ever. Collaborated. 3. Webb, Jack. Chilean dominating. Jack Webb, the inventor of Dickinson, was given by Dragnet and the policewoman as Sergeant, one of her most famous roles. Anderson Pepper. However, even though the show made her a well-known figure, the partnership there was tension with Webb. Behind the Dickinson discovered Webb to bind flexible, heartless, and accessible, adorning characteristics that make working quite challenging with him. However, the two briefly fell in love. However, it didn't soften his acerbic manner. She was continually fighting for original ideas and suffered under his rigid style of direction. Dickinson subsequently stated that Webb handled his performers as machine components that can be swapped out instead of artists. His reluctance to her opinions or uniqueness caused a lot of arguments, and she never totally pardoned him for the manner in which he disregarded her worries. He stayed in her thoughts are among the most icy and the most challenging men she had ever met in the company. For Marvin Lee, masking charisma brutality, Angie Dickinson experienced some incidents with Lee Marvin that will never be forgotten. Renowned for his rough and ready on-screen manner and explosive rage, although they never collaborated extensively, their Hollywood social connections left her lips tasted awful. Marvin Dickinson claimed to have a gift for making a few individuals feel insignificant. According to her, he was a man whose sarcasm was like a whip. One alleged incident during a dinner gathering made her feel ashamed when Marvin made fun of her capacity for public performance later on. He dismissed it as a joke, although Dickinson was not amused at all. She discovered it in conceited, callous, and cruel characteristics that took precedence over his ability to behave. She forcefully put him there. On her list of celebrities who are the Rudests ever met. 5. But Reynolds, the over-the-top charm, adored of his roguish appearance, but Reynolds Dickinson was someone who had a charming smile. Liked at first, they exchanged scenes, teamed up and ran incomparable Hollywood sitcoms. However, Dickinson developed with time. Tired of what she referred to as his witticisms. Although fans loved Reynolds, Dickinson was commended for his charisma. That's seen a different aside, a man who frequently utilizes allure as a cover for cunning and rude conduct. On set, she said Reynolds dismissed her with contempt. Concepts and overly preoccupied with his personal image be concerned about the work of others. He seemed flirty to her. To the uncomfortable point, and Sheventuli started to stay away from him altogether. At one point, she joked that Bert admired women who remained in their position. I wasn't one of them either. That was worth a spot on her personal blacklist for him. Despite the way Angie Dickinson presented herself flagrantly and modestly, those who she had a steel spine. According to someone who knew her and a vivid recollection regarding devils who mistreated her. Although she hardly ever mentioned names in public, those her loved ones said she never forgot. When the men made fun of her intelligence, disregarded her ability, or handled her as merely another attractive face in a Mali-dominated sector, her son was flourishing and surviving in a world where she was denigrated by many. Additionally, in her personal memories, despite their talent, 5 men stood out, not for what they've accomplished, but for their persistent feelings of harshness and disdain. They abandoned